There are a lot of stars that have played just horribly so far this season. Fernando Tatis Jr. has just one home run. Bichette is literally one of the worst hitters in the league. Kyle Tucker looks like a shell of himself, and so many more have just been awful so far. This isn't just a slow start to the season anymore either. It's already June. It's very fair to be concerned. So I'm going to help you guys answer the question, is it time to panic about these players? Before we get going quickly, if you guys are not already, please subscribe to the channel for more baseball content, drop the video a like, sound off in the comments, and a special thanks to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's video. I'm going to go over about 50 players in this list to help you guys decide whether or not you should be panicking about them, and the first up is Dodgers outfielder Kyle Tucker, who's been just aggressively mid this entire season. There's moments where it's felt like he's breaking out, then he recedes right back to just being totally regular. It's just not been a really easy transition for him into Los Angeles. And you guys see his stats above. The biggest thing that should jump off the page about Kyle Tucker's struggle so far is just 4 home runs. Oh, 5 home runs actually. And really, when you look under the hood for Kyle Tucker, that's not much of a surprise. He's not hitting the ball as hard, and his pitch selection is far worse. And I think one of my favorite stats to try and illustrate why both of those things for Kyle Tucker has taken a huge step back is barrels per swing. It's a stat that you can create in the Baseball Savant search function, which measures how many times you barrel a baseball based on how many swings that you have. Last season, Kyle Tucker was among the top 50 hitters in the league, in a stat that, again, really dictates the combination of your power and your pitch selection. 2 things that Kyle Tucker's definitely always had. But if you look at where Kyle Tucker ranks on the barrels per swing leaderboard this year, it's way down the list. It's with guys like Mitch Garver and Brenton Doyle. These are not big-time power hitters or guys known for their swing decisions, and Kyle Tucker's down there with them, when those are 2 things that were supposed to be his carrying traits. And you can really see this in Tucker as we dig deeper. His pitch selection is clearly worse. He's chasing more. It makes me think maybe he's pressing, trying to earn that huge contract. He's making less contact in the zone as well. It's just bad and much worse than it ever has been across the board. At the same time, he is swinging more at pitches in the zone, but I want to caution for just looking at zone swing rate because I think it's not telling the full story. Especially when we look right here, Kyle Tucker is chasing less often in the heart of the plate, slightly less, and a lot more in the shadow of the zone. Those areas just outside the strike zone, they're kind of known as pitcher's pitches. So zone swing will pick up some of those pitches being in the zone, but he's just still not picking the right ones in the zone to offer at. And even more specifically, if you guys look at this really nice visual right here about where Kyle Tucker is swinging, just based on simply zones of the plate, he's doing it a lot less literally in balls in the heart of the zone, right down the middle, and balls low and in, which is kind of the nitro zone for a left-handed bat. And another visual right here, it's shocking to see how much worse his quality of contact is in, again, those advantageous parts of the zone. He's hitting so many more ground balls down the middle and pitches high that really should never be hit on the ground. Again, looking right here, his barrel per swing from last season compared to this season, it's down across the board in like a really scary way. Like in the past, it felt like as a pitcher, you had to game plan against Kyle Tucker and make perfect pitches to ever get this guy out. Now, when you look at how he's performing on pitches in the strike zone, it kind of feels like you can throw it anywhere and he'll just get himself out. And this is all to say, it's worth some panic on Kyle Tucker. We've seen a lot of really good players struggle in the first seasons of mega contracts. That's probably a little bit what's going on right here. On top of that, everything under the hood is much worse than it's ever been in his entire career. There has been injuries over the last few years. Maybe something is still bothering him. But really, at the end of the day, the only saving grace for Kyle Tucker is his track record and his supporting cast. But I'm definitely a little bit bearish on him. I think maybe we get 12, 13 homers the rest of the season, and maybe he stretches out to an 800 OPS. That simply right there is not what any of us expected heading in. Next up, we got Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I just want to say real quick, I am not panicked about Vladdy whatsoever. I know he's not hitting very many home runs or many extra base hits, and he has a pretty rough launch angle distribution so far this season. Just something that Vladdy does, he hits way too many balls into the ground. But again, this is something that happens to Vladdy every year. The one thing that's a little bit different about his profile right now, which makes me just a teeny bit worried, is that he's swinging much more, and in doing so, chasing much more. I like the fact that he's swinging much more, so I think a guy like Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who has such amazing bat speed and such amazing raw power, besides that launch angle distribution, yeah, try to swing more, put your bat on the ball more. But for some reason, this is the first time in his career where he actually is chasing a lot. And I think what that's doing is starting off this chain reaction for Vladdy, where now he's even hunting for less power than he ever has in his career. Because he's chasing more, he's behind in the count slightly more this year compared to the past. And while he is making much more contact in these behind the count and 2-strike situations, which is helping him hit for high average in those spots, he is not hitting for the same power in those spots. I think he's more concerned with his strikeouts. I think for a Blue Jays team that's kind of relatively struggling, he really wants to keep the line moving. He is a player who prides himself on a 2-strike approach. He rarely ever strikes out. It's amazing for his raw power how much he never strikes out. But I do think, again, there's a bit of a chain reaction from him having a career high chase rate, falling behind in the count a bit more often, and wanting to just get his singles in those spots rather than hunt for power with 2 strikes. I'm still not panicked though. We've seen so much of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. over these last few years being an elite level hitter. I think there's a big hot streak coming. No panic whatsoever. Prize Picks is America's #1 sports picks app. And if you guys are not on Prize Picks yet, here's why you should be. The app is super simple. You just pick more or less on a few player stats, lock your lineup, that's it, you're in. No complicated strategies, no confusing interfaces, just you, your sports knowledge, and your picks. Prize Picks is a great place for you guys to go if you want to build a lineup during the NBA Finals. Also, so many great baseball lineups to build every single day. But I'm a huge Knicks fan. I'm locked in on the NBA Finals. I have this lineup ready to go for Game 2 on Friday night, where I think Victor Wembanyama is kind of going to be a hero, will the Spurs to a victory. But Karl-Anthony Towns is still going to get his, and some of the Spurs players have to step up. And I think Devin Vassell is good for 2 3-pointers. And guys, remember to follow me on the app with my username right here so you can see all the lineups I make in real time. But the best part, if you're a new user to Prize Picks, you can get $50 worth of lineups just for playing your first $5 lineup. All you have to do is click the link in my description right here, download the Prize Picks app, sign in with the promo code HMA, that's promo code HMA, play your first $5 lineup, and boom, $50 worth of lineups. And Prize Picks is available in most states: California, Texas, Florida, New York. Let's go Knicks. So please, guys, check out Prize Picks, but only play if you know you can do so responsibly. Next up, Fernando Tatis Jr. Good news to start off. He actually hit his first home run of the season. That's amazing. That being said, he's still not playing anywhere close to his expectations. He still is fairly productive. He's been a near league average bat. He's on pace for almost 40 stolen bases, which is saving us in any category or rotisserie-based league. But it's surreal to see this lack of power from Fernando Tatis. Ignore the 1 home run that he's hit. He only has 9 extra base hits in total on the season. Through the same 250 plate appearances at this time last season, he already had 13 home runs and 21 extra base hits. And all of this is underscored by one of the ugliest launch angle distributions I've ever seen from a supposed power hitter. Right here on the screen on one side is his launch angle distribution from 2024 and 2025 seasons, and over here on the other side is from the 2026 season. Like, oh my God, he's hitting everything directly into the ground. There's no way you can be a successful power hitter when you're hitting this many balls that deeply into the ground. Like if you're a worm and you're on the field for a Fernando Tatis game, you got to run for the hills. And if we look at this rolling launch angle chart right here, this is not getting much better. This is not a problem that Fernando Tatis is solving, even since, again, that first home run of the season. Of course, with having a very low launch angle, this is resulting in way fewer... And of course, with that low of a launch angle consistently all season, this is resulting in way fewer fly balls. He's not hitting those fly balls as hard. Here are his exit velocities on fly balls and line drives from last season compared to this season. It is way lower. It's not like super low in terms of the entire league, but this is a guy we're used to having some of the best raw power in baseball. And again, right now, as he drifts more towards like the 70th percentile, but also is not hitting as many fly balls, now you can see how he's just not been productive whatsoever at the plate. He's also doing these bonehead things sometimes, like on Tuesday night when he ran his team out of an inning when they were down by 1 run late. You just really don't like to see this. And since he's shown, again, nothing to this point in the season, it's definitely worth panic. But the way all of his underlying stuff is still kind of objectively okay besides launch angle, he's still hitting the ball incredibly hard, again, on the ground and making tons of contact. I guess that gives us a glimmer of hope. And I guess just because he is Fernando Tatis Jr., we should believe that he can flip the switch at basically any moment. But that really is more of just a hope thing than something we can actually meaningfully project. So with that, I don't know. Do we even get 10 home runs from Fernando Tatis Jr. the rest of the season? Do we even get a 750 OPS with no power? It's really hard to say. And this is kind of one of the most peculiar downturns of any player we've seen in baseball in quite some time. I don't want to hear anything about the steroids memes either. Next up is Gunnar Henderson. Yeah, guys, I'm going to be honest. I'm kind of panicked about Gunnar Henderson. I think this is a player who's lost himself over the last few years. At his best, he was a really talented gap-to-gap hitter who had tons of pull power when he got the pitch that was the right pitch to pull, while making some of the best swing decisions in all of baseball. Right now, I think Gunnar Henderson has become a little bit too obsessed with getting to that pull power. And in the process, his swing decisions have totally fallen apart and are now something that's actually a problem in his game. If you compare Henderson's swing rate by zone from his 2024 breakout season to what's happened in 2026 so far, it is really, really scary. This is a guy who has lost his entire process at the plate. The same goes for his barrels per swing by zone. There's just been a complete dissolvement of this guy's swing decisions, and that's terrible because that's one of the things he was supposed to do the best. He's just no longer the same master of the plate, and he's also not able to do damage and balls in different spots. It seems like he just needs a pitcher's mistake because he wants to yank that thing over the left field fence. Last season, it was easy to explain a lot of this away because he had the oblique injury in the spring, and then the Orioles kind of just fell apart over the first 2 months. Sure, that was a good way to just, again, use a narrative to explain why Henderson took a big step back. We don't have any of those narrative-based excuses so far. And for 2026, I am very panicked about Gunnar Henderson getting back to being an elite level performer. Next up, we have Nolan McLen from the Mets. And there's some reasons to panic here, but also some reasons not to. I'm going to explain why. He's been really, really bad lately. That ERA has jumped up over 4, as you guys can see above. And that's because he has an ERA over 9 over his last 3 starts, with just 13 strikeouts and 9 walks over 14 innings. It's been really bad. Just top-level stuff going on here. I'm showing you guys this beautiful game log split from Fangraphs of McLen's last 3 starts compared to the rest of the season. Hitters are chasing less often against McLen, while they're also swinging more often at pitches in the zone. They're also making more contact on pitches out of the zone, which also includes foul balls, which is a reason hitters are not being put away by McLen right now. They're also swinging far less often in both the chase and waste zones, spots where you're intending to throw pitches to get whiffs, which McLen's not getting at the same rate right now. And kind of what this is all added up to, as you guys can tell from those stats, a big reduction in strikeouts, a huge increase in walks, more traffic on the bases, and then many more runs being scored. Just a pitcher who is not the same level of sharp that we've really come to be used to through the first 15 or so starts of his career. And I think there are exactly 2 pitch types from McLen right now that kind of underscore all of these struggles. One is his curveball against left-handed hitters. This is the pitch that made Nolan McLen who he was last year. This is why it took a little bit of time last summer for him to get a spot and get called up, and why he was so dominant once he got to the big leagues. But here's a chart of where those curveballs have been against lefties. On one side before the cold spell, and on the other side here during the cold spell. Way less of a cluster below the zone in that chase spot, and now there are really just no whiffs on them whatsoever. Only 2 curveball whiffs against lefties in his last 3 starts in total. A horrible jump from where it used to be. And again, you can see it clearly from these pitch plots. He's just simply not commanding that pitch as well at all. Similarly, his sinker against righties. This pitch is a demon pitch. This is one that he's used to get swings and misses and ground balls just over and over again, through his first dozen or so starts as a big leaguer. Right now, recently, hitters are just getting around much, much, much better against it. It's getting hit harder, more consistently. More batted balls off that pitch are finding holes. He's not putting guys away with it anymore. And this is, again, never happened to him before. Just to show his command on that pitch right here is really not that different. So I guess that's not really specifically a cause for concern. But I do think they're anticipating it much better. And I think a reason they're able to anticipate it much better is because his command is bad across the board and all the spinners. He's behind the count more often. And it's really just creating the snowball effect as to why McLen is not as effective right now. Overall, I'm not really panicked. There was a teeny tiny concern just from watching his stuff where his velo was down, his spin rate was down over these few starts, but it's reverted back over the last 2, and he's still ineffective. This is kind of just a situation for pitchers who can't really rely on a swing and miss fastball and rely a lot on spin. They will have normal ebbs and flows in their production. I think that's where McLen is right now. He just really has to get back to leaning on that sinker and locating that curveball against lefties. Next up is Shota Imanaga, and I just really can't believe the guy who's super volatile and super inconsistent every single season is doing that again. I'm just so shocked about that. You guys gave me tons of comments on my pitcher rankings from last month saying I was too low in Imanaga. What do you know? Since that happened, the guy's fallen off a cliff. His last 3 starts, 20 earned runs in 15 innings with 10 strikeouts, 5 walks, and 8 home runs. That is horrible. And again, he finds the time to do this every single season. But weirdly, it doesn't make me panicked about him whatsoever. The big reasons why Imanaga usually craters, and again, this towards the second half of the season, is that his fastball velocity, which is kind of precarious because he doesn't really throw it that hard, even with the great shape, falls off a little bit. As of these last few starts, the fastball velocity is still hanging out near 92 miles per hour, and the vert on that pitch is down slightly, but also kind of going back up. It's not down to the point where we think that he should be getting teed off on. Realistically, home run volatility is a very real thing we should be aware of when evaluating players, and Wrigley Field gets much, much, much more hitter-friendly as it warms up over the summer. So I really just don't think he's as good as he was during that first month, 6 weeks of the season. He's also nowhere close to as bad as he's been over this last month. I think realistically, just like heading into the season, Imanaga is a guy who's probably going to run a mid to high 3s ERA with a reasonably high strikeout rate and hopefully no walks. Just keep an eye on that fastball velocity and shape. But right now, I'm actually not panicked about him at all. Next up, we have Bichette. I'm going to try not to let my Met fan bias get in the way of this analysis, but I really genuinely can't stand this guy. I can't stand watching these at-bats. He has no approach at the plate. He's playing horribly. right now one of the most overpaid players in baseball, as literally one of the worst hitters statistically in the entire league. And I see all the stuff about Bo Bichette's expected stats and all the stuff about his bad luck. His quality of contact is right there, incredibly similar of how it was last season. His StatCast page looks nearly identical to how it looked last season. His expected batting average is not at all far off from his career norms, neither is his expected WOBA, and right now, he's one of the most unlucky hitters in the league based on the difference between his WOBA and his expected WOBA. His plate discipline stuff, while it's still not great, he chases every single thing he sees, it's still normal compared to the rest of his career. But again, I watched this guy go up to the plate every single time with no plan. He just likes to swing and swing and swing, not play to the situation, and doesn't have the ability at all whatsoever to get out in front of a ball and pull one in the air. He basically has no extra base hits this season when he's not playing against the Washington Nationals. I do not buy the WOBA X-WOBA thing because X-WOBA does not take into account spray direction. So every time Bo Bichette does hit a nice line drive the other way, you're giving him too much credit for that. But again, I guess no panic, trying to be objective just because of the decent underlying stuff and the really good track record. But the eye test is so bad right now, and I can't look away from it. Next up, another big free agent bust so far, Framber Valdez. And right now, he's just not missing bats. It's kind of a terrifying development for Framber, or getting ground balls. Those are the two things that he used to do really well. Somehow he's not doing either. I think a big reason for that is because his curveball is just straight up not dominant at all right now. His whiff rate last year was over 40% in that curveball to right-handed batters. This season so far, it's under 30%. And the ground ball thing, I don't know what's going on, but this is kind of a big fear right now for Framber Valdez. First off, because we know how, acutely aware Framber Valdez is of his teammates and how kind of frustrated he can get on the mound. Won't go deeper into that, but this Tigers defense is nowhere close to the Astros defenses, infield defenses he's pitched in front of over the last few years. So maybe Framber in his mind is thinking, okay, I can give up more fly balls here, because also on the flip side of that, Comerica Park is much more kind to fly balls from a pitcher's perspective, especially against right-handed batters, than Daikin Park in Houston with the Crawford boxes. So again, maybe he's pitching to more fly balls, but not getting swings and misses, as many of them with that curveball, and not getting ground balls anymore. Again, like an under 50% ground ball rate for Framber Valdez is completely unheard of, and a strikeout rate below 20%. You put those two things together, that's not a very good pitcher. I know he gets really inconsistent in the past, peaks and valleys, but I'm kind of panicked seeing those two metrics where they are at this moment. Next up, we have Trea Turner, who I'm going to be patently honest with you guys, he's been swinging a pool noodle for years. I think it's just finally caught up with him. The last few years, his true talent was probably more something like a 750 OPS, and he was hanging out around there those first few years of the Phillies. Last year, he was amazing, though, and he has been able to beat his totally diminished power by running very high contact rates, the amazing speed still, and still being a good gap-to-gap hitter. But now the swing decisions are a bit worse. I don't think even if a hot streak comes, it will be able to save his stat line whatsoever. He won't be as bad as he's been so far, but without hitting the ball hard consistently, without any kind of barrel rate, I'm really kind of more sticking to Trea Turner's low end of his projections rest of season, like a 730, 720 OPS with 7 or 8 home runs, like a 250, 260 batting average. It's not a very good baseball player. And that's one the Phillies still have on the books for what, like 6 years? It's going to be a long one. Next up, we have Jackson Merrill. And this is just a crazy downturn for a player who looked like they were an ascending superstar as a rookie. And the thing that made Merrill so good in that rookie season was just this otherworldly barrel control. He showed an insane ability to square up everything thrown everywhere in the strike zone. Just amazing how he was able to hit these bad balls well and just get to his production. He's doing that so much less this season in every spot in the zone. It's almost shocking. Right here, you guys can see his squared up rate in every single plot, in every single spot in the strike zone from 2024 compared to this season. It's shocking how much less Jackson Merrill is squaring up every single pitch that he sees. On top of that, his barrel per swings right now also just looks like a hitter who really could only take advantage of mistakes, not do the thing he did super well as a rookie, which is get his barrel on everything. At the end of the day, maybe we have to acknowledge that the rookie stuff, the way he performed, the way he produced was simply unsustainable. He's just simply nowhere close to being that guy right now. He also can't be this bad. I'm panicked on what we believed was superstar potential for Jackson Merrill, but also think he'll, again, be much more productive than the stats you see above for the rest of the season. Similarly, Crow-Armstrong. I'm not panicked at all about Crow-Armstrong. In fact, I'm incredibly bullish on Crow-Armstrong right now. This is just who he is with this horrible plate discipline, these horrible swing decisions. This is the guy he will be until those things improve. In fact, I actually like the fact that he's walking more often this year. I think the hot streak is starting. The Cubs have put him up to the second spot in their order. At least they did so on Tuesday. We're still seeing him get to the great power when the bat is on the ball. I think there's going to be a monster hot streak from PCA starting any second now. And when it's all said and done, last season and this season might not look that different when we zoom out by the end of it all. On a completely different note, Next, we have Mookie Betts, who kind of a lot of the same stuff that I said about Trea Turner before. Mookie Betts has been a really dramatic multi-year slide with all of his quality of contact metrics under the hood. And now we're going on 3 straight years where he's objectively had no power left whatsoever. His hard hit rate's fallen off a cliff. His barrel rate's fallen off a cliff. He has really poor bat speed. Like, it's kind of hard to find right now. Besides the fact that his name is Mookie Betts, the reason is that Mookie Betts is going to be able to drag himself out of this hole. The saving grace for him has always been maintaining the elite swing decisions and pulling tons of his fly balls. Now that pitchers aren't scared of him whatsoever anymore, he's getting worked inside the zone. He is the second highest zone rate of any hitter in the league with at least 100 plate appearances. That's really scary for a future Hall of Famer in Mookie Betts, and tells us that pitchers are no longer scared of this guy anymore. So that eye is no longer super helpful because, again, everything he sees in the zone right at him. And another thing that's affecting those pulled fly balls, his intercept point keeps pushing back and back and back, which tells me that, one, the bat's a little slower. He's still pulling a lot of his fly balls, but the bat's a little slower. He's getting beat to that spot more than he ever has. Again, if his name wasn't Mookie Betts, I think we'd be in a full-blown panic, and we're getting to a point where he could be like droppable in 10-team leagues. Similarly, I want to quickly run through some players who I think you've just gotten old, and I do think that means that they're not going to be the same guys moving forward. Manny Machado, the bat speed is down. He's hitting, what, $180 right now? He's still getting to the power, but the bat to ball is no longer there. He'll definitely bounce back some, but this is someone who I'm more viewing now as like a top 8 third baseman rather than a top 3 third baseman. Similarly, Jose Altuve. He's actually chasing less so far this year, and he's hitting the ball harder, but the bat to ball is taking another step back, and he's just a really old second baseman. This is bound to happen. Same goes for George Springer. We're never going to know what happened that 2025 season, but Springer right now looks much, much, much more like the hitter we saw 2 and 3 years ago rather than the one we saw last year, injury notwithstanding. And 2 guys who I think we might have to sing the swan song for, Salvador Perez and Dansby Swanson. These guys are nowhere close right now. I mean, Salvi will never get benched, and the Royals are so bad anyway, but Dansby's sitting in that 9 spot for the Cubs. He does nothing on a daily basis. All right, now we're going to run through these a little bit faster. We have Austin Riley from the Braves, just way more bad than good over the last few years. Kind of difficult to ignore. What we now have is, what, over 1,000 plate appearances of Austin Riley not being that good of a hitter when he was an MVP candidate. And now the quality of contacts even take a big step back. His plate discipline's as bad as it's ever been. He's missing a decent bit in the zone too. Just not great. Definitely fair to panic about Austin Riley. Now we have Trevor Rogers from the Orioles. His last 4 starts have been just outrageously bad. He was on the IL for the few weeks with an illness, which is kind of scary in and of itself, but since coming off, 21 earned runs in 18 innings with 11 strikeouts, 8 walks, and 5 home runs. Yeah, PU. Last season, his fastball was elite versus right-handed batters. That's how he got himself back to prominence. That's why all you guys yelled at me that I ranked him too low in my preseason pitching rankings. This season, that fastball is getting pieced up for nearly a .600 slugging percentage. Just getting absolutely crushed. But also, the velocity in that pitch is basically the same. And weirdly, the shape on that fastball is just a little bit better. I think that Rogers has to do a little bit of a better job sequencing a little bit, maybe use more changeups early in the count, try to sneak that fastball by, or just simply locate that pitch better is going to be a big deal for him. But I'm actually less panicked about Trevor Rogers than I was before I did my deep dive into him. Also, Brent Rooker, totally fine. I don't think I get more questions about anybody in my comments and the members who get personalized advice if you sign up, membership tab down there in your desktop browser, than I do about Brent Rooker. I'm kind of just banking on the oblique strain that he had still bothering him, still being something that's lingering, something that's really making him swing and miss more than he ever has, more than almost any hitter in the league right now. I'm giving him until the end of June. Formal announcement, if you guys ask me about Brent Rooker in the comments again, or the members for the personalized advice, I'm giving Brent Rooker until the end of June. He's too good of a track record. He's too good of quality of contact. He's too good of a home park that's warming up and about to be Coors Field light. Don't do anything with Brent Rooker yet. Hold on a little longer. Similarly, Nick Lodolo from the Reds just has no type of command right now. That makes me worried because he missed a lot of time to start the season with a blister issue. He's been now placed on the IL in 3 consecutive seasons with blister issues, and this was the longest absence he ever had from those blisters. I think that's maybe affecting his arsenal and just making him a bit too predictable. Right now, when he gets into a 3-ball count against Riley, he's basically only throwing his sinker, literally 86% of the time that Nick Lodolo's in a 3-ball count against right-handed batters, he's throwing a sinker as of Wednesday, June 3rd. And now with these graphics right here, seeing the percent changes by count for Lodolo this season against righties compared to last season, it's just clear that there's a few things he's less comfortable throwing, and he gets into these grooves where he has to throw the hard stuff early and the slow stuff late, but also always seems to go back to that changeup to get himself out of trouble. Hopefully he can work through this. Another guy who kind of just felt like he was on the cusp of a breakout, but always goes 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. But also, if these struggles are blister related, the blister is not going to heal if you keep pitching. If he needs another layoff for a blister, the guy who's always injured, missing all his time for a blister, man, that's going to be frustrating. Talk about frustrating. Bubba Chandler. He just cannot get himself under control. Luckily, the strike rate for Bubba Chandler, especially on his fastball, has jumped up recently. The walks are still a bit of an issue, but the reason those walks are an issue and the reason Bubba Chandler seems to be fighting against himself in every single start is because he's just not missing bats. That's not a problem I ever thought Bubba Chandler would have. And right now, I think maybe the way that he's been working on the curveball and the sweeper, I think it's affected the grip or the intent on this tight gyro slider he's always thrown. And right now, all these pitches are kind of blending together. Again, none are missing bats, especially against righties, which for a guy like Bubba Chandler, when you have the platoon advantage, you have to get guys out. And right now, he's not. He's very frustrating. I don't think I'd be holding him in 12-team leagues at this point. But also, he's the guy you keep an eye on because Bubba Chandler is one of these game theory dudes in fantasy baseball where if there's a little bit of a click and we get back to last season Bubba Chandler, then boom, you have a top 50 starting pitcher again pretty easily with the upside for more. But like when you have the starts that he had on Tuesday against the Astros where he just fights his ass off for just a 3-run and 5-inning outing, I think 3 strikeouts and 2 walks if I remember right, it's just going to be a struggle every single start until he finds any way to get consistency with those breaking balls. Now we have Seiya Suzuki, who's just very blatantly not quite right. He had that knee injury from the World Baseball Classic that forced him to miss the first about 3 weeks of the season on the injured list. And I don't know if that's something that's still lingering. If you look at Seiya Suzuki's rolling charts, you could see his season completely fell apart right there in the middle of May. But he's not hitting the ball anywhere close to as hard as he's hit his whole career. And for Seiya Suzuki's entire career, he's been one of the sneaky best power hitters in all of baseball in terms of just that quality of contact. So again, similar to Brent Rooker, we have to ask ourselves, is he injured right now? Because there's nothing in his profile that would suggest he would ever take a downturn like this. So we're giving him a few more weeks and we're just going to hope for the best. Now we have Aaron Nola, who I do regret to inform doesn't look terrible of late. He's missing bats again. That fastball velocity is back around 92 to 93 miles per hour. But that pitch is still getting just absolutely monumentally pieced up. He had a really good start on Tuesday, and I'm recording this on Tuesday, so these stats aren't playing into it. But there was a .904 slugging percentage against that fastball heading into his start against San Diego. That would be by far and away the highest slugging percentage ever in an individual season. Just for comparison's sake, when Barry Bonds hit his 73 home runs, he had an .863 slugging percentage. So right now, hitters are slugging better on Aaron Nola's fastball than Barry Bonds did in his famous 73 home run season. Just let that sink in for a second. I really think he might have to just stop throwing that pitch to lefties, at least if he can't command it as the way he used to. He can't really command the sinker that well either right now. He just kind of has to be able to get that fastball right at the leathers when hitters are not expecting it. That's the only way it can be, but he's throwing the knuckle curve more right now. It's missing bats. The rest of the repertoire looks pretty good. If that fastball command gets right, like we might be looking at an actual top 60-ish starting pitcher, but one who we acknowledge can get blown up for 8 earned runs in any given moment. Next up, we got Vinny Pasquantino, one of the most disappointing players in all of baseball this season. Literally one of the least valuable players in terms of wins above replacement in the whole league this season. And I just really don't know why Vinny Pasquantino got away from the power gains and the bat speed gains he made last year to shorten up his swing, lose a bunch of bat speed, and try to play for more contact. That just shouldn't really be what a guy like Vinny Pasquantino is doing. I'm more worried about coaching a situation like this. But until we see these massive adjustments come undone, which is probably really hard to do at this point in the regular season, I see no way Vinny Pasquantino bounces back to the levels that we thought he would, and there should be full-blown panic about him. Then we got Tatsuya Imai from the Astros. I was never in. I'm still out. Very worthy to keep panicking about. I just do not believe in either of the 2 pitches he has in his 2-pitch mix, in an okay fastball and the weird backup slider. There's no pitcher with this array of pitches in Major League Baseball because, honestly, the 2 of them might not work, and I just don't believe it at all. No way, shape, or form. Next, we have Kyle Stowers, who's kind of on the low end right now of him being the super free swinger with the super power. He's chasing more than last season, but I also think it's just because pitchers are preparing for him a little differently. Now they know he's something to look out for. The raw power is still there, though. I could really see a hot streak coming for Kyle Stowers. I'm actually not panicking about him at all. He's someone who I'd be looking to buy low right now in certain leagues, and someone I'm kind of grabbing whenever I see him on the waiver wire in 12s. More panic here, and this is worthy of long-term panic, possibly. Andrew Painter. I do like that recently. He's made an adjustment to dive more into his secondary stuff. Lots of splitters and sliders and even some sinkers, 2-seamers, but the fastball is so dreadful. It gets absolutely destroyed. I think until Andrew Painter can get through an offseason and try to meaningfully change that fastball shape to, I think, where it was before surgery, we need to have the advanced data at that point. I just do not think he's really ever going to be a frontline starting pitcher, which when he was coming up as a prospect before he blew out the arm, I thought he was one of the best in the league. It's a real shame, honestly. Similarly, Eugenio Suarez, he sadly completely continued the horrible second half from last season. Still a low contact rate, but that is just Eugenio being Eugenio. The scary part is his quality of contact is directly in the tubes. His bat speed's down a touch. He's also not pulling or lifting quite as much. He needs to be doing that with how little he actually puts his bat on the ball. Maybe he's not healthy. He's freshly off the injured list as well. Maybe just hasn't gotten going yet because, again, getting stopped off for missing a month in the middle of the season. But it's a really bad profile right now. And one that, again, I don't think, besides the fact of who he's been in the past and the way we've seen him catch fire midseason, that's the only thing making me not think that Eugenio Suarez might be done. Then we have Matt Chapman. Luckily for him, the bat speed is back, but he's just not connecting with the baseball enough in a meaningful way. That Giants team is a disaster. Steven Kwan, this guy just has to swing more. Steven Kwan is so passive right now. It must be so frustrating for Guardians fans watching this entire lineup come together and be one of the most full, complete Guardians lineups we've seen in like 6 or 7 years, basically since they traded Francisco Lindor. Steven Kwan just has to swing more. He's got to nut up and he's got to look at that ball in the heart of the plate and swing at it, because I don't know why he's not doing that. Luke Keeschel from the Twins, just not hitting the ball hard enough. He's moved way down the batting order. He's also sitting sometimes against right-handed pitching. He's probably a guy that's actually possibly might have a trip to the minor leagues looming, which would be really disappointing. And someone who's second base is so weak that I'm still holding him in a few leagues just because sometimes in a 12-team league there's not that much out there, but I'd definitely try to look for something else out there. Similarly with Jacob Marcy, I think he tried to do a really serious swing and approach change heading into the season, trying to find more pull side power. Hasn't worked at all. I think he's completely ruined the thing he did best, which was spray balls all over the field, and now he looks like a disaster. Next, some injured guys who I still think we should be panicking about. Corey Seager is on a rehab assignment, but I don't like his back barking this early in the season. He was one of the worst hitters in baseball. He is Corey Seager, so I do believe he's on the field. He will hit effectively, but I'm not really holding my breath. Wyatt Langford, I'm hoping it happens, but he's on the rehab assignment now. Just come on, hope for the best, Wyatt. Roman Anthony, well worth 2026 panic. I don't know how much we see Roman Anthony the rest of the season. He just had another setback in his recovery from an injury that seemed minor, just on a swing. Now, since he got called up last summer, he's, I think, almost missed more games than he's actually played. Bad vibes over there. But at the same time, while it's worth panicking for 2026, sensational buy window right now in Dynasty Leagues. Great time to buy Roman Anthony because I don't think his value ever gets lower than where it winds up through this season. Similarly for Garrett Crochet, he also just had another bad setback. The Red Sox play terrible baseball on a day in, day out basis. And it's funny that we're starting to have some revisionist history about the Garrett Crochet trade, especially with how well a lot of those pieces are playing for the White Sox, even without Kyle Teal playing a game this season. The way the White Sox have weirdly surged past the Red Sox, it's kind of funny. I'm sorry, Red Sox fans. Cole Reagans, panic. Hasn't looked good when he's been on the mound the last year or so. Just got taken off his rehab assignment because apparently he didn't recover right after his rehab start last week. Weird vibes right there. Cal Raleigh, waiting for him to get back. Will never be as good as he was last year, but he will not be as bad as he was early this season. Yuri Perez, I'm so mad. He finally looks like he got over the hump, and immediately he gets injured. Him out 2 months right now, definitely worth panic. Probably not worth keeping on your bench if you don't have an IL spot to stash him in. And lastly, Michael Garcia, huge breakout last season, hero of the World Baseball Classic. Just does not lift the ball ever. And if you don't lift the ball, it's really hard to hit for power. And that's kind of where he got stuck, and that's kind of seems like where he is just stuck. Another guy, I know he's not going to be injured very long, but not someone holding my breath for when they come back. Last up, you guys might be wondering why I didn't mention some players who have some poor stats this season. So I just wanted to list out the guys who I think are on the upswing, who are over their slow starts. Jazz Chisholm looks pretty back. I know there's some weird stuff about Jazz all the time, but he does this every year. He's going to have a hot summer. Pete Alonso's been blazing hot for a month. Ketel Marte's been scalding hot for a month. Kyle Bradish has rediscovered some fastball quality and a good bit of command. I think he's back on the right track. Alex Bregman's swinging it better, but he's not really living up to his contract. That's neither here nor there. Sorry, Cubs fans. Rafael Devers and Willie Adames, I think, have both turned the corners as well. Jeremy Pena getting over the injury, also has been playing better. Tyler Soderstrom's finally begun to heat up. And two guys who I thought were dead as doornails, Jarren Duran and Shane Baz, both also with pretty decent last few weeks in here. But that's the end of the panic meter, part 2 of this season. I think maybe I'll do another one. I'll see how this one performs. But you guys loved it last time. I hope you love it this time. I'll see you for the waiver wire video this weekend. Check it later.